Loki is not just a trickster, and he is not just a villain. Because if you look closely at Germanic mythology, you begin to notice something strange. Some of the gods' greatest victories exist only because of Loki. Their most powerful weapons, their greatest treasures, even the events that define their world, all of them, in one way or another, lead back to Loki. And yet, this same figure becomes the one who brings about their destruction. So the question is not simply, who is Loki? But something far more unsettling. Why does the system depend on the very force that will destroy it? Loki is often described as an outsider, but that description is misleading. Because Loki is not excluded from the gods. He is integrated into their world. He shares their space, participates in their decisions, and acts alongside them. This is important, because it changes how we understand him. Loki is not chaos attacking from the outside. He is instability embedded within the structure itself. And psychologically, this reflects something deeply real. The most dangerous problems are not external threats. They are internal contradictions. Systems rarely collapse because of outside pressure alone. They collapse because something within them stops working. And Loki represents exactly that. One of the most overlooked aspects of Loki is that the gods owe many of their greatest advantages to him. This begins with a seemingly simple act of chaos. Loki cuts off the hair of Sif, the wife of Donna, or Thor in later Norse mythology. This is not just a prank. In Germanic culture, hair is deeply tied to identity and honor. So this act is humiliating, destructive, and dangerous. Donna is furious, and Loki is forced to fix what he has broken. But the way he fixes it changes everything. He goes to the dwarves, master craftsmen, and convinces them to create something extraordinary. They forge golden hair for Sif, finer and more beautiful than before. But Loki does not stop here. Through further manipulation and competition between dwarven smiths, he becomes responsible for the creation of some of the most powerful objects in mythology. Mjolnir, the hammer of Donar, a weapon capable of destroying giants and protecting the gods. Gungnir, the spear of Wodan, perfectly balanced, never missing its target. Draupnir, the golden ring, which multiplies itself, symbolizing endless wealth and power. And Skidbladnir, a ship that can be folded and carried, yet always finds favorable winds. These are not minor artifacts. They define the power of the gods. Without Mjolnir, Donar is weakened. Without Gungnir, Wodan loses authority. And all of these exist because Loki created a problem. This reveals something psychological profound. Creation doesn't always come from order. Sometimes it comes from disruption. But there is a cost. Because every time Loki solves a problem, he proves that the system depends on instability to evolve. Loki's role is not random. He destabilizes situations, but in doing so, he forces change. Without him, the gods would remain static, predictable, fixed, unchallenged. And in many systems, that leads to decay. So Loki serves a function. He prevents stagnation. But here is the danger. A system that depends on disruption also becomes vulnerable to it. Because the same force that creates progress can also spiral out of control. And Loki does not operate with limits. He does not stop when balance is restored. He continues. And that is where the shift begins. The death of Balder is not just another myth. It is the turning point. Balder begins to dream of his death. Not symbolic dreams, but clear, prophetic visions. The gods recognize the danger immediately, because Balder represents something rare. Purity, light, and perfection. If he can die, then nothing is safe. So, Frigg takes action. She travels across the world and extracts oaths from everything in existence. Fire will not harm him. Water will not harm him. Stone, metal, animals, disease, all swear the same. This is an attempt to eliminate risk entirely, to create a perfect system. And for a moment, it works. The gods test Balder's invulnerability. They throw weapons at him, strike him, attack him, and nothing happens. He cannot be harmed. This becomes entertainment, a demonstration of control over fate. But Loki sees something else. He sees the flaw in the system. Frigg had overlooked one thing: mistletoe. Not because it is powerful, but because it is insignificant. And that is what makes it dangerous. Loki does not act impulsively. He acts precisely. He approaches Höður, Balder's blind brother. Höður cannot participate in the game. He is excluded, and Loki uses that. He offers to guide him, to include him, to give him a role. But instead, he places a mistletoe dart in his hand and directs his aim. Höður throws. Balder dies. This is not chaos. This is strategy. Loki identifies a flaw in a perfect system, an excluded individual, and a harmless object, and combines them into something fatal. Psychologically, this reveals something deeply unsettling. Perfect systems are not destroyed by powerful forces. They are destroyed by overlooked weaknesses, and often by those who were never fully included. After Balder's death, Loki is no longer tolerated. The system turns against him. He is captured, bound, and punished. But this does not solve the problem, because Loki was never separate from the system. He was part of it. And by suppressing him, the gods do not eliminate chaos. They concentrate it. And concentrated instability becomes more dangerous. This is the moment Loki changes. Not because he suddenly becomes evil, but because the system no longer allows him to exist within it. At Ragnarök, Loki returns, not as a helper, but as a force of destruction. He fights against the gods and dies with them. And this is important, because Loki does not stand outside the system at the end. He falls with it. He was never separate. He was always part of the same structure. Loki is not just chaos. He is necessary instability, the force that reveals flaws, the pressure that tests structure, and ultimately, the reason the system cannot last forever. If you want to understand how all of this leads to the end of the world, then watch my video Ragnarök Explained, why the gods didn't stop it next. Because Loki is not just part of Ragnarök. He is the reason it becomes inevitable. The system didn't collapse because of Loki. Loki proved it was always unstable.